Welcome to Rock Your Talk. I'm Leisa Reid, host of Rock Your Talk and founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. I have here with me the amazing, the wonderful Suzy Prudden. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited.
Yeah, so excited to have you here. And Suzy, we're going to learn more about her in just a moment. A couple of notes for you. If you're a speaker and you're looking for ways to get on more stages, go to GetSpeakingGigsNow.com because there's a free gift waiting for you. 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs, and that's from me to you. You can grab that. If you're also thinking, this is a sign that I've been waiting for, and you're ready to get started and fulfill your dreams of being a speaker, make sure and schedule a chat with me. You can do that at GetSpeakingGigsNow.com/chat. And that would be a speaker strategy session. We'll figure out where you are, where you want to be. And if I can provide some resources, I want to make sure and help you get there. All right. So we're going to dive into some pretty cool tips from Miss Suzy Prudden. She's going to be talking about 3 tips on publishing. So if you have been wondering about writing a book, how would I get started? What would I do? What is this whole thing about? I see other people have books, but I don't have one. Then today is your lucky, lucky, lucky day. Suzy, before we even get started in the tips though, tell us, I know you, but tell the audience about you and what you're doing over there at Itty Bitty Publishing.
Yeah, how much time do we have? Yes.
8 hours.
8 hours. So that is Oprah on my right shoulder.
Love it.
And I have her there for 2 reasons. One, of course, is to edify myself because I've done the Oprah show. And the other is, and it's about the tips actually, when you write a book, it positions you as an expert in your field and automatically positions you to get speaking, when I say speaking gigs, it's like interviews on radio, television, in newspapers, magazines, podcasts is very big. So the purpose, and I'm going into a tip while I'm saying about myself, the purpose of your book is to get noticed, is to get visibility. And for me, I sold my first book, this is fun, at a cocktail party in East Hampton, Long Island in 1971. I had a fitness school at the time. I had a summer camp at the time. I met the editor at the party, told her about a book I wanted. And yes, that's how I started my writing career. At that time, I couldn't write, but my husband could. So he wrote the books and I created the programs. And those books positioned me in such a way that I got my own TV show in New York. I was a fitness reporter for the Today Show. And I've had a huge career. So I started my business in 1965. And it went from being a fitness expert to being a body-mind pioneer to being a hypnotherapist, and eventually led me into publishing, which surprised me. I had no idea that I would do this. And 6 years ago, my sister and I started Itty Bitty Publishing. And that's the snapshot, Lisa.
Yeah.
That's
and I've heard your story. I know you have so many great adventures and journeys and successes and obstacles you've overcome. And so if you're wondering, you want to hear more about those obstacles and successes that Suzy's gone through, I know she's going to share how to get in touch with her.
Yes, I am. And I want to say the first thing that you want to do with a book, tip number 1, is really think about why you're writing the book. If you just want to tell your story, that's very nice. But if you're someone who wants to make a difference, if you're someone who wants to use their book to grow their business, if you want people to pick it up and say, oh, wow, I've got to know more, the first thing is, why are you writing your book? So tip number 1, have a reason that you're writing a book other than I have a nice story. Because there's lots of nice stories that right now, people don't have time. 95% of Americans don't read. And we all need information.
Yeah, that's a really good tip because sometimes it can be a dream of someone, but you don't really know why, or you think, oh, I have a really interesting life. Well, I think we all think we have interesting lives, right? Because it's our life. But when you're an entrepreneur and you have knowledge that could be really helpful and make an impact, now we're starting to talk. Now, and I'm assuming you mean you could still put your story in your book, but it needs to be purposeful. Is that what you're saying? Like it needs to be like,
There's two things,
okay,
and
yes.
thank you for that clarification. There's two things. With itty bitty books, we don't have story. There's
Okay.
absolutely no story in itty bitty books. But what happened is people would come to me and said, I want to write a book. My story is, and they tell me, you know, their family came from someplace and they had this hardship or this great thing happened or whatever. And that's not an itty bitty book. An itty bitty book is specifically, and I'll say this more later, specifically, this is what you need to know about such and such.
I love it. And
And
I can even use a personal example. I know one of your authors, Anthony Camacho,
oh,
and
wow, yes.
he writes on sales tips, right? And it was the very first itty bitty book that I had ever heard of and that I read. And it was funny because he had gifted me one of his books because we had met in person. There we go. Oh, look at that. And here's a funny story, Suzy. I was reading it, and then this was many years ago, and I was jumping on a plane for something. I'm at John Wayne Airport in Orange County, California, and his book is on the little shelf in the airport. And I was like, "What?
That
Reading his book?" And it's because it was easy to read. You could read it while you're waiting for your flight to arrive. There's these great sales tips. It's consumable. It wasn't like Moby Dick. Like, I mean, nothing against Moby Dick, but you know, that's a hefty task, right?
it's easy to, you know, just stick it in your briefcase or your purse or whatever. And with Anthony grew his business using that book from 100,000 to 750,000. He used that. It was so exciting to watch him take off with that book. He's done 6 books with us now, and he and I are working on a book together now. And he got a contract in Australia, yeah. And he's so cute because his wife Tanya is from Australia. He said this is what he brought, his souvenir from Australia. But he got a contract in Australia where for 2 years, he traveled every 3 months to Australia for 10 days. And so that's why you want to write a book. It's very nice to have a book. I've got a lot of books. I've got 11 books with big houses, and I have a New York Times bestseller from before the internet, and I have a whole bunch of Amazon bestsellers. If you don't do something with your book, it doesn't do something. It doesn't get up and go sell itself. And that was the wonderful thing about Anthony, because he really took that book and flew with it. And the other thing you want to think about is what I teach my authors. Oh, I wanted to say, go back, because I was about to talk about Legacy Press. We have itty bitty books, which are like this book, which are 30 pages, and it's a book that lets people know you are the expert in your field. And then we have Legacy Press, and that was created for all the people who have a story that they want to tell. So we have memoirs, we have a couple of novels, and so that particular book line is growing slowly, whereas Itty Bitty is really taking off. Then we also have a children's book line. You know, people will come to me and say, this is a tip. It has nothing to do with actually publishing and everything to do with life. People come to me with an idea, and my first thought is, how can I make that happen? So my attitude is say yes and figure it out. So when people came to me with novels, we created Legacy Press. A woman came to me with a children's book. I now have Little Dog Press for children's book. The woman came to me with a cookbook, so now I have a cookbook line. So as an author, your listeners and viewers, think about what it is you do and how you want to present it to the world. Now, tip number 2.
Yep.
Write out your chapter headings. Just take 10, 15 one-liners.
Perfect.
That gets you focused on what you want to write. You can change it, but that gets you focused.
I like that because it makes it so simple. I think when a person, like an entrepreneur, I've been in this situation where if their paper's blank and you're just like, you don't have anywhere to go. You don't have anywhere to put all of your knowledge. But then if you're going by what you're saying, is like, and this is how I think too, like writing in almost a template, like an outline, like what am I gonna, now I know what to fill in. I give my mind a place to focus.
Yes.
I remember in one of my books, I was talking about building your speaking pipeline. And the person who someone gave me feedback, he's like, well, not everybody knows what a pipeline is. I'm like, oh, good point. Like it was so
Right.
obvious to me. I didn't think.
Yeah.
So then that was part of what I explained, like, what is a pipeline? Why do you need one? What would be the problem if you didn't have one? And so that's part of that chapter, because I knew, oh, well, that's really easy. I can explain that.
Yeah. And then the tip 3 is now you have your chapter headings. Now write a paragraph, 1 to 3 paragraphs under that heading of what that chapter is going to say. So basically what you're doing is chapter 1, this one, let's look here to say, okay. So this is a book about marijuana and the health reasons. So treating headaches and migraines. Okay, so with that, headaches and migraines, then you write a paragraph on what this chapter is about. And when you've gone through your whole book and you've written a paragraph on each chapter heading, basically when you sit down to finally write the actual book, all you have to do is expand on what you've already written. So it, as you said, you know, when you're staring at a blank page, it's like, but all of a sudden you've got a kickstart, and then you've got a few paragraphs, and all of a sudden you're just saying, oh, I can expand this and I can expand that. And that's really it. That is it. Know why you're writing it, write your chapter titles, expand on them, and you've got your book.
Love it. I also want to ask you, because it's one of those things, I mean, I've written books a couple different ways, whether I'm contributing or doing it all on my own, or, you know, and it's one of those things where I've described it in the past of like, well, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are, like what we're learning today from you, there are ways to make it easier. But tell me and the audience more about how working with you makes it like a slam dunk.
That is so sweet, Lisa. Thank you. I totally forgot. Why do you want to work with me? Well, when you become an itty bitty author, you're going to love this. We send you a template. We send you a book, how to write an itty bitty book, and we send you the how to write the itty bitty book. We send you an itty bitty book, and we send you the template, and we just say follow the book and fill in the template.
Yeah.
And then what happens is we say to people when they sign up with us, send us your 15 chapter headings in your first 3 chapters so we can make sure you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Because it's itty bitty books are very stylized. Legacy press books are not. They're basically, you can write anything you want. But with itty bitty, when somebody buys an itty bitty book, they know exactly what they're getting.
Yeah.
Every first page, the chapters are only 2 pages. So it's
doable, easy.
It's a 20-minute read. Page 1 on each book is written in numbered sentences and paragraphs. Page 2 of each chapter is written in bullet points. And the purpose of the book, and this is so important. So those of you who are watching and listening.
Getting bonus tips, everybody.
Yeah, but yeah. The purpose of your book is to get the reader to your website. Get the reader to whatever it is that you've got going, so your reader becomes a client. And then that is the purpose of your book. You're not just entertaining people.
Right.
That's a whole different genre. I mean, I read novels all the time. I really consume them, yes. But this, you want people to get the information succinctly, quickly, and you want them wanting more.
Absolutely. I love that. And then I know you have a couple of free gifts that you were going to offer everyone. Do you want to explain what those are?
Thank you very much. Yes. In one of my careers, I'm a hypnotherapist. I created 4 hypnosis processes to increase your wealth and 4 hypnosis processes to write a bestseller. And if you go to my website, ittybittypublishing.com, that's BITTY publishing.com, and you'll see a place where you can fill out your information. You fill out your information and we send you the 8 downloads.
Right.
And you can listen to them anywhere. And I've had people call me. Greg Reid, who wrote 3 Feet from Gold, he listens to my wealth processes, and he told me that after 1 month he tripled his money, his income.
Oh.
I thought that was pretty cool because he was making a lot of money to begin with. and
That's great. I love that.
That really was great. So for those of you who are watching and listening, please go to my website, ittybittypublishing.com, and fill out the information. We'll send you, and there's a place where it says, you want to write me a note, just say free gift.
Okay. Oh, okay, good. And we'll put that link in the show notes as well if you're driving while you're listening to this, or you're just not in a place where you're like, oh, I want to remember that. I'll put that in the notes so you can just copy and paste that, or click on the link right then and there and go get your downloads, because that's really valuable, especially if you are wanting to increase your wealth, which who doesn't want to do that?
Exactly.
And B, been thinking about writing your book, or thinking about maybe writing an additional book that just has a different purpose than one you've already written. Thank you, Suzy. I have one more question for you. This doesn't have anything to do with publishing, but the show's called Rock Your Talk. So I like to ask my guests, who's your favorite rock star or rock band? And I know you've got some numbers there. I know you have a lot of music in that library of yours. Who do you?
Well, when I speak, because I was a former fitness person, I always get my audience moving.
Yes.
And the piece of music that I use, and they played the wrong one when you and I were speaking at that event. It's the Pointer Sisters, Jump.
Yes.
And I just had my own radio show on WBAI in New York. That was my opening music, and that came out. I've been using that particular piece of music since 1983.
It's a good song.
And
it's a good song.
It's absolutely perfect. So the rock bands, I mean, the Pointer Sisters are not my favorite rock band, but that is the piece of music that I use the most.
I love it. Well, one of my favorite songs is by Donna Summer, who is in more the disco era.
Yep.
But I love a lot of disco too. And so
me too.
I just love all kinds of music. Rock is probably my the biggest piece of the pie, but I love whether it's Elvis or I don't know, all different, a lot of decades spanned music.
A lot of decades. My son grew up listening to the Beatles.
Yes.
And he was born in 1966. And so his sons, because he was a Beatles fan, grew up listening to the Beatles. And so
I grew up listening to the Beatles because of my stepmom, it's like, and I grew up, your parents, our generation, the generation ahead of you can really help influence you, which is a cool thing. Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for being our guest today. I think you learned a lot, and hopefully if you're listening, you're feeling inspired to publish that book. Let's get that done so you have it going. Yes.
And Leisa, if I'd like to say to your audience, if any of you want to talk to me about writing a book, again, fill out that information on the website, ittybittypublishing.com. I'm happy to talk to you about writing a book, and I'm happy to steer you in the right direction. So if it's not us that would publish your book, I can send you to the people that I know, or tell you, I've told people that's not a good book. Well, I don't say it that way, but I don't want people to go into thinking, and this is also very important. This is tip number whatever. You're not going to make a lot of money writing books. You're going to make a lot of money with what you do with your book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like a magic bean that all of a sudden, you still have to do the activities behind it. And it's such a powerful tool, especially if you're in the speaking industry or you're an entrepreneur who wants to get noticed. And like you said, maybe you're interested in being on TV, maybe you're interested in being on more podcasts, or being in magazines or print or whatever, like live streams. There's a lot of things that you can do to catapult yourself, and having a book instantly raises your credibility, your reputation, your expert status. It's really important I highly recommend getting one, writing one, doing it.
Yes, and it's important to know if you are in a field where there are a lot of other people in that field and you want to be interviewed. I mean, my friend Christine Blasdale has a podcast called Out of the Box with Christine. She says if she has two people in the same industry, one has a book and one doesn't, she'll take the person with the book.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement right there.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're inspired, everyone. Hopefully you're inspired to get out there and get that book written. Meanwhile, subscribe to our channel so you continue to get more and more expert tips. I know lots of really great people like Suzy. Yeah.
I have another tip. So when you're writing your book, don't edit it while you're writing.
Oh, okay.
When you've got to finish the book, put it down, and then pick it up and then edit it. And then put it down. Because if you write it, if you edit while you write it, you'll get to chapter 3, chapter 3, chapter 3, because you'll keep going around and around and around.
Yeah.
You want to get to chapter 10 or 15, whatever, how many, and then go back and edit. And you also want to have somebody else edit.
Yes.
And not a friend, a professional.
Yes. Yeah. Because there's certain things you're not going to see. You're not going to see it anymore. Yeah. I know I've read my book so many times and I was like, okay, I just keep seeing the same words. And very, very important. And I agree. Like it's a different way of thinking, a different part of your brain. The writing part versus the editing part, you're looking and feeling and experiencing it differently.
Yes.
Well, we have like 27 tips on this show. Oh my gosh. Suzy Prudden, over delivering as usual. I love it. Well, remember to be kind to yourself today. If you haven't already done that, be kind to somebody else. And we will see you on the next episode of Rock Your Talk. Bye.
Thank you, Leisa.